My husband's parents secretly hired a private investigator to dig up dirt on me, saying, "We'll find something to end this marriage." My husband shrugged and said, "They just want to protect me." I smiled, placed a folder on the table, and said, "Funny, because I did my own investigation." Their smugness turned to sheer panic. When I married David, I knew his parents, Margaret and Richard, weren't thrilled about me. They came from old money in Charleston, South Carolina, and I was from a middle-class family in Pittsburgh. Despite my efforts to connect with them, they remained distant and often condescending. One evening, during a family gathering at their grand estate, I overheard Margaret speaking in a hushed but urgent tone. "We need to protect David," she said. Richard replied, "I've already hired a private investigator. We'll find something to end this marriage." I felt a chill run down my spine. They were actively trying to sabotage our marriage. Later that night, I confronted David about it. He sighed and said, "They just want to protect me." I realized I needed to take action. If they were digging into my past, maybe I should do some digging of my own. I hired a private investigator from Atlanta, someone with no ties to Charleston's elite. Over the next few weeks, he uncovered some unsettling information. Despite their outward appearance of wealth, Margaret and Richard were drowning in debt due to poor investments and lavish spending. More alarmingly, Richard was involved in questionable business practices that bordered on illegal. Armed with this knowledge, I decided to confront them. During our next visit to their estate, I waited for the right moment. As we sat in their opulent living room, I placed a folder on the coffee table. "It's interesting," I began, "because I conducted my own investigation." Margaret's smug expression faltered, and Richard's face turned pale. "What is this?" Margaret demanded, reaching for the folder with trembling hands. "Documentation of your financial troubles and Richard's questionable business activities," I replied. David looked bewildered. "What is she talking about?" he asked his parents. Richard stammered, "This is preposterous." "Is it?" I countered. "I have evidence. And I'm prepared to make it public if you don't stop trying to undermine my marriage." Margaret's eyes narrowed. "You wouldn't dare." I met her gaze unwaveringly. "Try me." The room fell into a heavy silence. David turned to his parents, betrayal evident on his face. "Is this true?" Richard sighed, sinking into his chair. "We were only trying to protect you." "By destroying my marriage?" David's voice was laced with disbelief. Margaret's posture deflated. "We thought she wasn't right for you." David shook his head. "That's not your decision to make." From that day forward, Margaret and Richard kept their distance. David and I moved to Atlanta, away from their toxic influence, and focused on building our life together. The experience taught me the importance of standing up for myself and the power of turning the tables on those who seek to harm you. Things went quiet for a few months after we moved to Atlanta. David didn't talk much about his parents, and I didn't ask. I thought we were finally in the clear. I was wrong. It started with strange calls. No one on the other end, just heavy breathing or silence. Then came the emails, anonymous accounts, sending links to rumors about me. Some were old photos taken out of context. One email had a copy of a very old speeding ticket I forgot even existed. It was clear someone was trying to build a case. Again, I showed David. He rubbed his face and said, "They wouldn't go that far. They wouldn't stalk you." I just stared at him. "I'll talk to them," he added. But I knew that wouldn't help. His loyalty to them ran deep, no matter what they did. I hired my investigator again. This time, I told him to go deeper, not just into Margaret and Richard, but anyone they might be using. It didn't take long. The anonymous emails were traced back to a small law office in Charleston. One of Richard's old college friends worked there. They were trying to dig up enough on me to file some sort of suit, anything that might scare me or shake me loose from their son. What they didn't know is, I grew up in a family where secrets didn't stay buried. I was raised by a single dad who worked construction and taught me to read people better than any book could. So I started digging too, not just with investigators, but myself. Margaret had a sister, Deborah. Estranged. No one ever talked about her. I found her living quietly in Savannah, Georgia. I visited her. She opened the door, looked me up and down, and said, "You're her daughter-in-law, aren't you?" I nodded. She let me in without another word. We talked for 3 hours. She spilled everything. Margaret and Richard, she said, weren't always the power couple. They married fast and out of scandal. Richard got another woman pregnant in college. Margaret's family covered it up, paid the woman off. I sat frozen. They told everyone it was false. That she was trying to trap him, Deborah said. But there's a child out there. He'd be in his early 30s now. Your husband has a half-brother. I left Savannah with more than just a name. I had photos, letters, and the contact of the woman Richard left behind. The storm wasn't over. It had just changed direction. I didn't know what I'd do with the info yet, but I knew I had a weapon. And this time, I wasn't playing defense. I kept everything Deborah gave me in a locked drawer. I didn't tell David. Not yet. I needed time to figure out what this meant. About his parents. About our marriage. About the half-brother he never knew existed. Then something unexpected happened. One morning, David's phone lit up with a call from his mother. He didn't answer. I watched his face tense. "I haven't spoken to her since we left," he muttered. But an hour later, he got an email from Richard. Subject line: "This is bigger than you know." The message was short: "You need to come to Charleston. Alone. There's something you deserve to hear in person. Bring your wife if you must." I didn't trust it. At all. But I also knew people like Margaret and Richard didn't rattle easily. If Richard was calling a truce, it was because something had him scared. We agreed to go, but I set some rules. 1 night only, no staying at their house, and I'd keep my copy of everything Deborah gave me with me at all times. We rented a car and stayed at a small inn just outside of town. The next day, we met them at their house. The minute we walked into the sitting room, I noticed something different. Margaret wasn't smug. She looked tired. "Hello." Richard got right to it. "No hello. No pleasantries. We know you've been digging," he said to me. "So you probably already know." David looked confused. "Know what?" "About your half-brother," I said quietly, watching their eyes widen. David blinked hard. "What the hell are you talking about?" Margaret stood. "We were going to tell you. Eventually. Like you told me about hiring a PI on my wife," he shot back. Richard ran a hand through his hair, clearly unraveling. He reached out. "Last week. We thought it was a scam. But he knew things. Personal things. He has a birth certificate. Photos. He wants to meet you, David." The air in the room felt thick. David was shaking. "Why now?" "Because he's dying," Margaret whispered. "Cancer. Stage 4. He doesn't want money. He just wants to know his brother before it's too late." David sat down like someone knocked the wind out of him. I sat beside him but stayed quiet. This wasn't my moment. Not yet. Later that night, in the car, David finally asked, "You knew, didn't you?" I nodded. "I met your Aunt Deborah. She told me everything." He looked out the window for a long time. "I don't know if I'm mad at you, or just mad at everything. I wanted to protect you," I said. "After what they did, I needed to understand who they really were." He nodded slowly. But that wasn't the only twist coming. 2 days later, I got a call from my investigator. He sounded off. "We found something else," he said. I braced myself. "That PI they hired? He wasn't just looking into you. He was bribing people. Old coworkers. Neighbors. Even a former boyfriend. Trying to create something, anything, to make you look bad." I was stunned. "And?" "They were building a fake case. Lying to David. If you hadn't pushed back, they planned to file for a conservatorship. Claim you were unstable. Take control of his assets." My stomach dropped. They weren't just trying to scare me off. They were trying to erase me completely. When I hung up with my investigator, I sat in the dark and stared at nothing. I had proof now. Emails. Wire transfers. Handwritten notes. They really tried to take my life apart, legally erase me, just because I wasn't one of them. I wanted to go nuclear, but I knew it couldn't be loud. Not yet. They needed to feel it slow, crawling under their skin like rot they couldn't shake. The first thing I did was take the folder, the whole truth, and I gave it to David. No sugarcoating. Just silence as he read. Every lie. Every trick. Every cruel move. He didn't speak for 10 minutes. Then he stood up, walked into our bedroom, and threw his phone into the wall so hard it shattered. "I don't know who the hell they are anymore," he said. "You don't have to," I said. "We're done with them." But that wasn't enough for me. I sent anonymous copies of the same folder to 3 places. 1. The IRS. 2. The SEC, because Richard's business was on shaky, probably illegal ground. 3. The board of Margaret's private charity, which, turns out, had some suspicious donations. Within weeks, the news hit local Charleston papers. Wealthy couple under investigation for financial fraud and charity misuse. Their friends dropped them fast. People like that don't stand by you when you smell like scandal. But the biggest punch came quietly. The half-brother, his name was Michael, posted his story online. Nothing dramatic, just honest. A letter to the world. I'm the forgotten son. I just wanted to know my father before I died. It went viral. Margaret and Richard couldn't show their faces. Michael died 3 months later. David went to his funeral. Alone. He never spoke to his parents again. And me? I won. But I didn't walk away clean. David was never the same after all of it. Some nights, he'd just sit outside in silence. Guilt clung to him, even though it wasn't his fault. And eventually, that silence turned into distance. Arguments. Walls between us. One night, he said, "I don't even know who we are anymore." I looked at him and said, "We're the pieces they left behind." We divorced quietly a year later. So yeah, I got revenge. I crushed them. I made them fall. But the price? I lost him too. He didn't deserve that. And maybe I didn't deserve him. We all made mistakes. But only some of us were monsters. And I made sure those ones burned.